Welcome to Botanical Trails Through the Juniper Forest. I'm your host, Brian Heater. Each week, I'll have a different guest join me to explore a pair of interesting gins. We'll chat a little bit about the gin and the distilleries, throw in a bit of trivia, hopefully laugh a bit, and then we'll go off the beaten path. Although I say that this is a podcast about gin, really this is just an excuse for me to spend time with my friends. But that'll just be our secret. Okay, let's start exploring. My guest for episode 9 is Alyssa Jester. Alyssa, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Just really hoping I'm not ruining it.
You are not. If anyone would ruin this, it is me. So I was trying to think of what would be an interesting topic in terms of gins for us to try. And what I decided upon was Japanese gins. And the reason for that is, I'm not sure if you remember, but a couple of years ago, we both kind of discovered the first gin we're going to try, which is Roku gin, like within a few days of each other. I think I had been at a local watering hole speakeasy where they had it, and I tried it, and like literally the next day or 2 days later, you sent me a text and you were like, have you tried this gin? And I was like, yes, I had just tried it, and we both like this gin.
Both at speakeasy.
Yes, and so this is a slight cheat for us knowing the first one, but we are going to do Japanese gins today. We are going to start off with Roku gin, and then our second gin, there's kind of an interesting tie-in to these two distilleries. So we'll chat about that as we go along. But go ahead and give Roku a taste, which I know that you should probably enjoy.
Yeah, love it. Tasting a hint of gin.
Yes. So the gin and tonics I made for us today are really plain and simple. It is just the gin and the Mediterranean tonic from Fever Tree. On the distillery's website, they actually recommend using a ginger stick as kind of like the little piece to go along with it. But I didn't get any ginger sticks yesterday, so I thought we would just go ahead and do it with nothing else, and it is really tasty. So the gin is Roku gin. Any guesses as to what Roku means?
No, but now I'm mad I didn't Google it.
So in Japanese, Roku means 6. So their gin has a total of 14 botanicals, but 6 of them are unique to Japan. And so hence the name of the gin, because Roku means 6. So the 6 unique Japanese botanicals are sakura flower and sakura leaf, which are from cherry tree. 2 types of green teas, sencha tea and gyokuro tea. I'm sure I messed that up. It's Gyokuro. Gyokuro would be my guess. Then there is yuzu peel and sansho pepper. These 6 botanicals are harvested at the peak of their season for the best flavor. And then they have like 8 traditional botanicals, including coriander and cardamom.
No ginger?
There could be. They didn't list all of the botanicals. So my favorite little website, The Gin Is In. It describes the taste of hints of cherry blossom early, easing into a mid-palate of leafy green tea, slight notes of peppery juniper, then with a bitter orange coming on late. This gin came out in 2017. It has won a number of awards. Now, the distillery that it comes from is called the House of Suntory. The company itself originated in 1899 with kind of like a store that was selling Western-style wine and liquor. And they discovered that that was not really popular among the Japanese and their palates. So, in 1907, Shinjiro Tori developed his own wine. It was a sweet grape wine, and it was a huge success. So utilizing the success of that in 1923, then he built the first malt whiskey distillery in Japan, Yamazaki Distillery. And then in 1936, they introduced their first gin. It was called Hermes Distilled Dry Gin. I do not believe they make it anymore. So since then, they have opened a number of distilleries. Their distillery in Osaka is what produces the Roku gin. They also make whiskey, gin, and vodka. They have a number of different whiskeys. So now another interesting thing is the Roku bottle, the gin bottle, is designed to reflect the aesthetics of Japan, and it has 6 sides. So it's a hexagonal bottle, and the 6 Japanese botanicals are embossed on the bottle, symbolizing Roku. And then the label is printed on washi paper, which highlights Japanese craftsmanship along with the bold calligraphy. So that is kind of the background on Roku Gin and the distillery. So
yeah,
now,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I realized that I think I do like the more peppery gins. So that's probably why I like this so much.
Yes, it is a super tasty gin. I very much enjoy it. Now, have you ever been to Japan?
I know you're trying to brag about how you have been, so go ahead.
Wait, I'm not trying to brag.
I have not been to Japan.
No, you're right. I have had the fortune. I got to go 4 times between like 1999 and 2000. And that country is just quite the place to be. Like, at least it was like 20 years ago. It reminded me, not in a bad way, but it reminded me of like New York on crack or speed. Like, it was a huge city, but everything was like just going fast, like busy all the time. I don't know that I've ever seen a mass of humanity like when I got on the subway like one time, and then thought I lost my mother-in-law at the time because she was like 5'2" with dark hair, and I was taking her somewhere. And then when those trains would stop, thousands of people who looked very much like her from behind just poured out of the trains. And I was like, oh man, if I lose her, that would not be good. Yeah. Luckily I didn't. But but some of my favorite things about the country were, so at their base, I got to go to like a Major League Baseball game over there. And 2 things sort of stood out. Well, 3 actually. So one, they have fans that would kind of be like, they reminded me of like college football fans, like kids in the I-Zone, like with college basketball in the U.S. So, but like the one team we went to, their fans had these iridescent umbrellas that they would hold open above their heads, and they had like choreographed dances that they would do. And
it's then like the flag spinners here, and
except they were the fans. Like they're like it's a big group of people like out in the stands, sort of like.
Do they have a name?
That. So
like super fans?
I'm sure they do. I don't know what it would have been.
We need to look it up. After.
And then if a player would hit a home run back then, when they would cross home plate, someone would come out and give them a stuffed animal.
Why don't they do that here?
I don't know. And in the stands, if you ordered a beer, instead of them cracking like a can or something, they had these mini kegs that the vendors would walk around, and you would get a draft beer in the stands. It was great. So, and then, I don't know, have you ever watched Lost in Translation? With Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson.
I've seen like bits and pieces.
Have you seen the bit when he's on like this like bonkers crazy like TV talk show?
No.
Their like afternoon like talk shows are just, they're crazy. Like I was watching one time and they like shot a guy out of a cannon into Tokyo Bay. Like their TV shows are like insane, super entertaining. I couldn't understand a thing because I didn't learn Japanese. So, and then what was the other thing I really enjoy? We went one time to, it was called the Cavern Club, which was sort of their version. The Cavern Club is where the Beatles got started in Liverpool. So they had the Cavern Club in Tokyo had a Beatles cover band, but their band had 5 members as opposed to 4 because their Paul couldn't play the piano. So they had to bring in a 5th guy to play the piano. And when they played, they sounded just like the Beatles. And then when they would talk between sets, they're just chatting in Japanese. And then I remember at one point they were like, any request? And a guy shouted out like, Tiny Dancer. And they're like, no, that's Elton John. We only do the Beatles.
Freebird.
So, but I would certainly recommend, like, if you ever get a chance to travel to Japan, it is a really interesting, like, cool place to go.
How long did you stay each time? Because you traveled for work, right? Or was
No, my first wife had an assignment over there.
Yeah.
And I just started my own company. So for like tax reasons and things like that, like it wasn't a good time for me to go. So I got to go 4 times. And the first time I just like went over by myself. And then the second time I went over with, there was another couple that we were friends with came over. And then the third trip, we brought our mothers along, so my mom and her mom. And that was a fun trip, but on the way home, there were about 20 babies from China that had been adopted that were on the flight home with us. The strobe light above me for trying to read was like flickering like a disco ball. And the little earphones, like if you wanted to listen to a movie, like mine didn't work. And I've never really wanted a plane, obviously, to go down, but I may not have minded. That was the longest flight home. And it's like a 12-hour flight home. That was just a super, like, long flight. And then the last trip, I just went back again, like, by myself.
Okay.
So,
now, I have to
for about a week at a time.
I want to circle back to the children who were getting adopted.
Yes.
What was that like? Like, did they each have a person? Was it like one person?
It was like the families had gone, like, these families had gone over.
Okay.
And I believe they picked up their kids, like, in China.
Okay.
And then this was like a layover for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're on the plane and the plane is packed. Like I'd been lucky. The first 2 times I'd gone over, like the planes were pretty empty. It was amazing. This plane coming back home, it was packed. And all of a sudden it's just like a stream of these kids. And these are like, you know, they're like babies. They were, I bet you, 6 to 18 months, right? And they just weren't super happy about being on a long flight.
Well, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was, that was kind of an intense ride home.
I can't believe I didn't hear this story before.
Yeah, I think I've tried to just suppress it.
Yeah.
So. But Japan itself was just an amazing, like, fun place to visit. So, yeah, so if you get a chance, check it out. Now, have you ever been mistaken for Japanese? I know people love to mess up your ethnicity.
Surprisingly, no. I don't think. My brother has.
Brian?
Yeah.
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
That he has feminine features and very beautiful eyes, and so people would say that. I, of course, didn't get that ethnicity. I got multiple other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So, would you like to try our first round of gin trivia?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'm going to know nothing.
That's fine. So, all right. We had decided that you would go first today. So, you got a 50-50 chance on this one.
Ooh, multiple choice. Okay.
True or false? When tasting gin for comparison, the best way to reveal the qualities and flaws is to chill them.
False.
Correct. The best way is to serve them at room temperature and dilute with an equal measure of water.
Yeah. I had a feeling, you're supposed to drink water at room temp too.
Yeah, I don't like that. I like my water cold. But no, that is what I heard. But yeah, it's funny that came up because I think I mentioned an episode or 2 ago, I was out for a dinner party and a gentleman we were with who really liked gin mentioned like, hey, the way to really, I guess something about the water really helps to unlock the botanicals is how he described it. So that's the way to go. So good job. You nailed that one.
Winning at life today. So what was his job when he was doing this?
No, this guy, it's just like his hobby.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
I mean, we were out to dinner and it came up that he liked gin, and then he pulls out this picture and it says like kitchen counter, like an island, and it's got 30 bottles of gin.
And then he made himself his own badge of gin guru.
Gin connoisseur.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was great. And so I like went through, and I bet I had maybe tried half of them or so. I mean, it was a really like good collection, and he was like an interesting guy. He was older. He grew up it was over in England, Manchester, maybe, or London. But yeah, he just had tried all these different gins, and then he was telling, I was actually out with Jerry, and he had said, hey, this would be the way to like try like new gins. And I need to start doing that. I have not done that yet. We could try it in round 2. We could put a couple drops of water in our gin samplers.
Do we need to do that to ourselves?
No, we could just drink it straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I realize I love gin, you love gin, but I can't imagine having a photo of all of my gins at home on my phone to show people.
Yeah, it just came up. It was pretty funny. So, yeah. He must love it.
Yeah.
So, which is great. I was like, that's amazing.
I hope you're listening, gin. Sampler man.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully we'll get to... He lives in Lansing now, I believe, so he's not too far. So
where did you meet him with Jerry?
It was for Jerry's wife, Olivia, her birthday party, and they're friends of theirs. And so I hadn't met him before. No. And so it was it was good to meet him, and it was good to learn that, and I'll try to start being better about giving that a shot moving forward. So,
yeah. And then we need to create a badge for you and for him.
For Jerry and I? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll have to come up with an interesting little slogan for it. You know, it'd be fun to get like a little patch, and then we'll sell jackets.
Ooh, like little varsity
We'll come up
jackets.
with little Botanical Trails patches. How great would that be?
Yeah. You could even like go to like the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and have them
and ask them to whip that up.
Yeah.
Is that, you think they sew their own badges?
It's a life lesson. Sure.
All right. Well, I will go get our drinks ready for segment 2. And we are back for the second segment. So we're going to try something a little different in today's episode. We are going to sample both of our gins straight, but we are going to start off by going right into the Roku, which we were enjoying in segment 1. So go ahead, Alyssa, and give that a little taste. Or shoot it.
I was going to shoot it, but that's like... Oh, you did? Okay.
No, I didn't. I mean, it definitely has that little peppery aftertaste, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is it didn't set my throat on fire when I was drinking it.
I'm not there yet. Definitely a little fire still.
Oh, okay. But yeah, you definitely get that little peppery bit from it.
The peppery mixed with rubbing alcohol just goes down so smooth. But with the gin and with the ice and the tonic, it's delicious.
Yeah. So the second gin that we are trying is called Nika Coffee Gin, or Coffee Gin, and go ahead and give that a little try.
Not to be confused with actual coffee.
Correct. It is not. I'll explain that yet. It's not a coffee flavored gin.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a little sort of citrus forward, but a little bitter.
I can smell the citrus forward. Less. Oh.
It's definitely different.
Yeah.
But like in an interesting way. And I don't mean interesting, like not in a good way. Like it's got a really just interesting flavor. I think.
It really does. You can taste the citrus.
Yeah.
But like a lemon or like a orange.
Yes. I think it, listen, I'll go through it in a second,
okay.
But that's, this is tastier on its own than I initially thought it would be.
Yeah. Because I was really just thinking it was coffee gin. So
I know. I know you were a little nervous about that. So, but no, it is not that. So
you weren't trying to church it up with just the Y?
I was not. So, and then for the gin and tonics that I made, I went with the Nika gin, and then we used just light premium tonic and then a little bit of lime. They didn't really give a way to make the cocktails like a best, here's what we think is best, but in one of their pictures they showed just like a lime near the gin, so I figured that they wanted us to try the lime. So a little bit about the gin and the distillery. So first, just like our last gin, this gin also came out in 2017. So this is made with 11 botanicals, including 4 types of Japanese citrus. Yuzu, kabusu, amanatsu, and shaquazar. And I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, but that's what that one looks like. It's Shequuasar. There's also a touch of apples, and that is a fruit that's deeply related to the history of this company. They make an apple wine, an apple brandy, and they used apple brandy casks to finish a 100th anniversary single malt whiskey that they came out with a couple of years ago. So the Gin is In describes it as a very unique gin that may not be for everyone. It is not your usual citrus forward gin, but they say that the tonic helps to make it a little less bitter. But I'll be honest, in trying it straight, I didn't find it to be super bitter.
Me neither.
Like,
I also don't taste the apple.
It's got a unique flavor, but I wouldn't say it's like really bitter.
Yeah.
And that does make a good gin and tonic.
I really like it.
Yeah, that is a good gin and tonic. So, a little bit about the distillery, and here is where we kind of find out how the two distilleries in today's episode are slightly related. So, Masataka Takatsuru, and I apologize for messing that up, he moved to Scotland in 1918 to learn to make whiskey. So while he's there, he apprentices at 3 Scottish distilleries. He returns to Japan 2 years later in 1920, and in 1923, he joins Suntory to help build their Yamazaki distillery. And he is kind of like the head distiller that helps produce Japan's first whiskey. So the last distillery, he's the guy that goes in and helps make their whiskey. He had a 10-year contract with them. When that ends, he goes and starts his own distillery, and he moved up to Yoshi Hokkaido, which is the northernmost main island of Japan. And the reason he selected that area is he felt that that environment, those conditions were the most similar to Scotland. And he felt it would be best for distilling up there.
I gotta look at a map now.
So they launched their first whiskey, which is Nika Whiskey, in 1940. And then that later ends up, Nika becomes the name of the company. In 1963, they import a coffee still from Scotland to produce grain whiskey. And then in 1966, they import and install another one. And the reason is that Masataka felt that the coffee still retains more flavors that originate from the grain itself. They have 2 distilleries now, and their gin is distilled at their Miyagakoyo distillery. That opened in 1967, and then the coffee stills were moved there in 1999. And then, as I mentioned, this gin came out in 2017. So the one guy kind of cut his teeth making whiskey at the first distillery we discussed, and then he ends up starting this second distillery, and then way down the road, that's how we got these 2 gins today.
Do you think there was a fallout?
No, I think he was just like, hey, I completed my contract, I'm going to go and try and start something. But I had no idea until I was doing like my homework for the episode that these 2 distilleries were related like that, like at all. So
yeah. In my mind, it's going to be a fallout because I like the drama of it all. So
you know what?
they were best friends, and then
well, I don't know that they're best friends. I mean, the guy was just like working for them.
In my mind.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So did you know that the guys who started Adidas and Puma, the shoes, were brothers?
No.
Yeah.
Maybe I did know that down the road. Gosh, everything is like related, like the whole Apple and Microsoft and Can we watch a documentary on that then?
Which one?
The Adidas and Puma.
I don't know. Maybe. They're both German companies, so I don't know if there's a documentary in German about them. I haven't looked into it too much, but my buddy Greg is a huge Adidas fan. And then 20-some years ago, Jim introduced me to this shoe, this Puma shoe that I bought, and then that sort of just got me down my Puma path that I like. I just find them to be like super comfortable, just personally. So very comfy. Yeah.
If there was a brand that had an owl, do you think that you would give up Pumas and then go with
like
the owl?
A shoe?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It'd be really tough to get me off of a Puma, but I would love like some type of like owl thing, like a night owl.
Yeah.
That would be good. Since that's a nickname that you came up.
Yeah.
A night owl and your early bird.
Early bird, yeah. And it still loves to be true. I text everybody at like 5:30 in the morning, but that's when my brain starts.
Yes, you love to do that. So
you don't have to read it.
Well, I have my volume up in case there's an emergency, so I hear it ding,
Oh, now I know. I won't do that.
No, it's fine. It's no big deal. Like, I'm on a sabbatical right now. I got plenty of time to rest. I'm not worried about it.
What you should do is program people that if you had an emergency and then theirs would go through and mine won't wake you up.
You never know when you're going to get an emergency, though, and from whom.
Yeah, but, okay, like me, you're probably going to get the emergency from Scott, right?
Not if it was Scott and I needed to come from you, or what if both of you happened and Sutton had to call me?
Well, she doesn't know
Well, she'd probably use one of those phones. But anyhow, like, I wouldn't, like, case in point, I won't mention who, but say 9 months ago, I got a call at like 12:30, 12:45 at night. I was up reading, luckily. But it's a friend of mine. He's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, just reading. And he's like, hey, any chance you could come get me? And he was at Gun Lake Casino, and he had a little bit too much. And obviously, Uber is going to be... Well, one, I don't even know if they would go down there to get him. And I don't think there's a lot of Ubers down at this casino, which is like 30 minutes south of Grand Rapids. So anyhow, I like cruised down there and, snagged him, and we're good to go. But you never know when you're going to get a call from whoever. So I wouldn't want to like lock into just who I am and I'm not like hearing from if they needed me.
Very, very noble of you.
Phone's
on silent.
When you're out?
Well, no, good. Not when I'm out. Or like when I'm sleeping out.
Yeah, sleeping out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I honestly don't think I've had volume on my phone in 5 years. Yeah.
You have plenty of volume with the kids at home.
Oh yeah.
So they're plenty.
And
they're plenty good.
Daycare calls or something, it goes to my watch.
Do you have an Apple Watch? Mm-hmm. Do you like it?
Yeah, as long as all of the notifications are turned off. Highly recommend turning off all the notifications.
So then what's the advantage of having the Apple Watch?
Health, and I don't ever have my sound on, so if somebody calls, the notification for the phone will ring.
But you just said your notifications are off.
You
have it on for
for a phone call. But
They're
no
on.
Text messages or anything will go
okay. But you'll know if a call comes through that.
Yeah, but I don't wear it at night.
Okay. And then for health, so you wear it just to like track your activity or whatever then? So is it pretty accurate, do you think?
Who knows?
I don't know. I got a bunch of friends who have them. They all love it. So
yeah.
I just, I haven't yet, so.
Ask Claire. I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah. Our father-in-law is the majority stakeholder at Apple at this point?
Has to be right now.
All right. Are you ready for round 2?
Yes, I'm ready to ask.
Yes. So, here you go.
Okay. Question. Old Buck Gin originates from which African country?
Old Buck Gin. Mm-hmm. Originates from what African country? Old Buck Gin. Old Buck Gin. I will guess South Africa.
How would you get this right? You got it right.
I'm a good guesser. So I just guessed, literally. So.
Okay, that was right. That was a correct answer.
Yay! Ding ding. All right.
So now you have to get that type of gin.
Which can be tough to do because we're slightly regulated on like what we can liquor stores in Michigan can only sell like what's on their state register.
Well,
and things sort of come and go.
True, except
some workaround where we can get a bunch of gin.
When I was not necessarily the gin, but when I was trying to find that Jester wine, we did not get it for Michigan, but I called around to all of like the liquor stores, the orders, and one specific place had a distributor who was able to get it for me.
Huh.
It was the only one out of 5 I've called.
That's pretty interesting.
I know.
I did try a really good, it wasn't Old Buck, but I tried a really good South African gin like a year ago. I was at Rishi's. And which is a store here in Grand Rapids, and they're super nice there, and they've got some people who really like gin, and I was in there and I was chatting with the owner, and he was like, hey, you should try this. And it was super tasty, and I cannot remember what it was, and they do not have it in stock anymore. But like gins like that will come and go. I don't know if you remember, but you and Scott got me that gin from India. It was like Hapusa, something like that.
I think we got that
at Siciliano's. Yeah, it was great. You can't find it anywhere now. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if they like get deals from their distributors where they're like, hey, try this gin, and they see how it does or something like that, you know, but yeah. But that would be good to know if we could sneak in gins that we can't normally get here.
The one, it was, I can't remember the name, if something grape, but it's on Nap.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. They said, oh, we'll see if we can get it for you. And then the next day, maybe 2 days later, they're like, your box of wine is in. Literally got me an entire box.
Nice.
Maybe even 2. I was so excited.
It was a boxed wine?
No, it was a case of wine.
Oh, you got a case of wine?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
If I'm going to make them order it.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true for you.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of running out of room in the liquor cabinet, so.
But you're going to have that badge soon, so you can take pictures and show people.
Exactly. So, all right. Are you ready for Off the Beaten Path?
Okay, I think I am.
All right. Would you like to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay. I will go first today. So, all right. So, I kind of lucked out that I had something that sort of ties into... We're trying Japanese-style gins. And so there's a series on Netflix that I really enjoyed that part of it is set in Japan. So this is going to be my off the beaten path for today. So it is a series on Netflix. It's called Jiri Haji. It's like Jiri/Haji. Translated, it means duty/shame. So sort of the gist of it. A nephew of a Yakuza member, so like Japanese organized crime. A nephew is killed in London, and the guy that they think murdered him is the brother of a Tokyo detective.
Okay.
So they asked the detective in Tokyo to go to London to find out what's going on. Now, the interesting thing is everyone thinks his brother's dead. So his brother's not even supposed to be alive. And then he's being sent to investigate this murder, but he has to keep it a secret because he doesn't want people to know why he's in London. So he signs up for like this class. It's like a criminology course for different detectives from around the world. It's like an international thing. So through this, he ends up sort of working with this London cop. And then she kind of figures out something's going on because he's actually never in class. And then meanwhile, he's also enlisting the aid of a like half Japanese sex worker to try to get some ties or to infiltrate like the London underground to kind of find out what's going on. And then he's dealing with them. And then meanwhile, there's this whole story back in Tokyo with like his partner, Japanese organized crime, his family. It's just a super well done, like interesting story. So it's really well written. It's a little bit weird at times. It's pretty funny at times. It's definitely a little bit violent at times, but it just does a great job of like developing these characters and like telling the stories. If I remember correctly, it's like 8 episodes long. It's in both English and Japanese. The Japanese is subtitled. But if you're looking for just a show that has some really interesting, well-rounded, flawed characters that tells a really good story, I highly recommend Jiri Haji. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's good. And it's just 1 season, so you don't have to worry about like 2 to 3 seasons of it. So it's good stuff.
I'm sure Scott would like it.
I definitely think Scott would like it.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't think it's in your wheelhouse as much.
It's not. I already know. Yeah. But thank you. I'm not going to try it.
No, that's okay.
The only thing that it could be more in Scott's wheelhouse is if it was also set in space. He would love that.
Well, maybe in the future they'll have they'll have one. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's hilarious. So, all right. What is your selection for Off the Beaten Path?
So my selection of Off the Beaten Path is also topic related, because meeting with Brian today, I realized he has never seen Bullet Train, which
Correct.
is amazing. And honestly very surprising, because you usually see all the movies before we do.
I do, and I really like Brad Pitt.
Yes.
And so, and I do want to see it. But yes, you are correct. I have not seen it. So what's the synopsis of this?
So I'm probably not going to give a very good synopsis, but just highlights. You got Brad Pitt. You got a highlight of Channing Tatum, Sandra Bullock, Joey King. The movie is about different types of assassins that are all corralled to do one job on a bullet train. And you find out throughout the movie, like, what their task is, how it's all related at the end. But in it, it is gory, but very funny and very well done, because it's tied together very well. And it has explanations of everything and does make you think, but very entertaining the entire time. And it's a pretty long movie, so typically it's not in my wheelhouse, because I'll just quote SNL, really prefer a short ass movie. But great. I loved it. So,
and is it funny, did you say?
Yeah,
yes.
Funny.
Okay. I've seen the trailer for this, and it reminds me of kind of like a Guy Ritchie film, but like set in Japan.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm guessing you can probably understand them better because you're not having to deal with all the accents.
Yes, it's mostly English. There's some subtitles, but not very many.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes, like in the movie, I think there's assassins from Mexico, there's assassins from Japan, and then kind of all over. So some subtitles, mostly English, you'll be fine.
Nice. No, I definitely will check it. So are they like assassins tied to different like international crime syndicates? Is that sort of the gist? Or no, these are just like mercenaries, like assassins for hire, and they just happen to be from different countries.
Assassins for hire, but some of them are tied to certain different people.
Criminal organizations. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. That's always slightly interesting. Mm-hmm. I will say I almost went with a different selection today. I'll give it a super short plug. Mm-hmm. But I read this novel. It's actually 2 books. It's from also Japan. The second one just came out, but it's called Lady Joker. So the reason I didn't suggest it is both books are just huge. Like in total, I think between the 2 books, it's like 1,200 pages. The gist of it is these 5 guys who kind of bond over horse racing in Tokyo, for reasons I won't totally get into, but they decide that they are going to kidnap the head of the largest beer manufacturing company in Tokyo, and then basically get him to pay a ransom. Mm-hmm. But they let him go after a few days, but they basically threaten to like poison their beer supply if he doesn't pay off, but he can't pay off. So anyhow, the book it kind of starts off and it's talking about like how these 5 guys get involved. And then it goes to like the beer company and the president, and then how the cops are investigating this. And it's a super like elaborate story. It's very well written. The pace can be a bit slow at times, but the story as it goes in just kind of really like sucks you in. And the crazy thing then that I found out after I read it, it's loosely based on a true story. But the true story wasn't a guy from a beer company. It was someone from a candy company who got kidnapped, and they have never solved this case. Oh, but I'm not saying that that's how the book ends. But it's just a really like interesting story that's loosely based on a true story.
But did you just give the ending away?
I can't say yes or no. But it's called Lady Joker, if you're interested in that. So, this would be, I think, the second episode in a row where we may have done something like that accidentally.
Totally okay.
No, but it's good.
And just to keep it going of what not to do, Brian and I had
this is a different spin on Off the Beaten Path that you came up with.
Okay. I want to talk about something that I don't recommend. And Brian and I disagree on this because it's Aperol spritzes.
No, I just said, I think this is an interesting take. You should do it, but I'm going to speak for the opposition.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
Don't like them. Really was excited to try it after the birth of my son. And what a disappointment. Aperol just ruined the Prosecco.
So real quick, you had never tried an Aperol spritz up until this a couple years ago.
Correct.
You'd never had. So what made you want to try an Aperol spritz if you had not had it?
It was like a hot topic then. You know, all the housewives were drinking it.
You mean on one of your housewife shows?
Sure.
I'm sort of surprised you didn't plug that for your Off the Beaten Path.
I know.
You watch approximately, 65 of these housewife shows?
How many? I mean, I go in waves, right? I really love the housewives. It's all the same. The drama.
And these are all real people, right, in these shows?
Yeah, mostly.
I mean, it's real, but obviously it's being manipulated somehow. But these aren't like, it's not a scripted show. Like they're like real people living lives we can't imagine.
That's what they say. Unscripted.
Unscripted.
Yeah. But
I just feel they're pushed into these situations.
They get pushed, of course.
I would think.
Yeah.
Right? They got to make it a little crazy.
Mm-hmm. So when you get like mostly affluent women in a certain lifestyle, I assume there's lots of drama. I'm not one of those people, so lucky I don't have to deal with that, but I do enjoy watching it.
Okay. Back to the Aperol Spritz. What time of the year was it when you tried this?
Keller was born in August, so August.
Okay, so summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's where I'll speak for the opposition. I don't know what you're thinking. That's crazy. Aperol Spritz is a great little cocktail, especially at a happy hour in like the spring or summer. It is refreshing and light. It is super tasty.
Tastes like nail polish.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Well, I've never
sure.
had nail polish, but I don't think that at all. Mm-hmm. Maybe they just didn't mix it properly for you.
Okay, they is me, so I take great offense to that.
What'd you say?
I said they is me, so...
Oh, you made your own?
Yes.
And you followed a recipe?
Yes.
Oh, wait, you just made this on your... You didn't go to like a place and have this made?
Correct, but I am a very good bartender, Brian.
I agree with that, but... Okay, here's what we're going to do. And I'll report back on this later in the season. We're going to a happy hour, and we're going to try an Aperol Spritz somewhere. And it's going to be a nice summer day, 4:30ish. And we're going to see if that changes how you think about it.
I'll agree to it. I'm not happy about it, but I'll do it.
You can just try it. And if you don't like it, then you can get something else and I'll just drink it.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Okay. That sounds fair.
Yeah.
I can't believe you don't like an Aperol Spritz.
No.
Wow.
There's not too many things I don't like.
No, you're kind of not you're adventurous. I mean, you're open to like trying different stuff, and you tend to like a lot of different stuff. You're sort of like me though. Like you'll try different liquors and beers and wine.
Well, yeah, but the food, in comparison to food you eat versus food I eat.
Well, these are two different things.
Okay, I didn't know. You said you're kind of like me, and I was like, no.
I meant in terms of beverages.
Okay.
We know you eat a lot more food than I do. We don't
Yeah.
need to go through that. Not everyone, the 3 listeners are at this point aware that maybe I don't have a super big food palate. I'm more plain, simple. I like...
Bland.
I wouldn't say bland.
Okay.
Stuff tastes good.
Sure.
I would not say bland. So, any last thoughts before we wrap up episode 9?
No thoughts. Just thank you for having me.
No, thank you very much for coming on. And I was thinking about this the other day for the 3 listeners out there. If you have any questions or comments, or if there is a gin that you would like to recommend, feel free to go to the Instagram account for the show, which is at The Botanical Trails, and drop us a note, and we'll be happy to get back to you. So thank you very much. We'll chat with you next time. Thanks for joining us. Feel free to subscribe to us on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts. Also, I want to take a quick minute to thank Darin VanderMolen for all of his help behind the scenes. Without him, this podcast probably wouldn't even exist, and his help is greatly appreciated. Hope you have a great week, and we will look forward to seeing you the next time we go down the botanical trails. This has been a Shits and Giggles production.